Hi, I'm Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at the Royal High School, Bath. This is part 9 of a series of explanations about how to conduct investigations of crime, and particularly how to use a range of GIS skills even for other studies. And it's a project supported by the Royal Geographical Society's Innovative Teaching Grant, aimed at helping students, sixth formers particularly, in conducting their personal investigations. This particular one is looking at merging and extracting spatial data. I'll explain what I mean by that. Previously, I've shown you how to bring crime data into a map for any area in the UK, so this is around Bath, and I've got the dots here representing crime data, and I've got the social data underneath. This is showing you income per person or purchasing power per person as the shapes. It doesn't visualize that well to show the relationships. I can sort of see clusters, but I can also not see a lot of it. There's 21 dots on that particular dot there, so that's a bit of a problem as well. I tried using things like density maps and hotspots, but they are not going to overlap very well with a, as you can see there, as I'm turning them on and off, with another choropleth map. Also, it didn't allow me to sort of analyze the data together, so I'm going to try to merge these two layers together and visualize it better, the relationship, and also be able to take the data out into a spreadsheet package to look at the relationships once I've combined them. So I've got two different layers here. I've got the crime data from the police data set. I've got a completely different layer here about income, and I really want to bring these two together and look at the spatial relationship between the two. This is quite high level, complex type of geographical analysis, and can get you a lot of credit on your investigations if you conduct analysis like this. So I'm going to go onto this layer, the shapes layer here, which is called Enriched Multiple Deprivation Test. I'm going to combine it with this one, the year's Bath crime data. Those are the only two I've got clicked on at the moment. I'm going to go to this Perform Analysis tool that you can see here. I've explained some of the other tools before. We're going to summarize data and summarize within this time. We used to summarize nearby in a previous tutorial. And it says, what do you want to summarize? Let's summarize from, so that's the enriched multiple deprivation data test layer that I created. Layer I want to summarize, I've got to be careful to pick the right one from all these. I'm going to summarize the dots. That's the November 2012 to 13 Bath crime data. If your map's got less layers on it, it will be less confusing than mine, but I've kept everything in for the moment, so I've just got to pick the right one. Then it says add statistics to summarize. So I basically want a count of points, which is fine. And if I had other variables, I could do things like averages and sums of various data that these dots might have in them. So if there were sort of scores of fear of crime, I could do the average fear of crime, for example, rather than the totals, because one area might have 10 dots and another area only a few. But I basically just want to do a count of these dots, so that's fine as it stands. That's picked by default. I don't need to group the fields by anything. I can ignore that and just need to give it a name. So I'm going to call it Summarize Bath Crime and income, and I put it a test file, and just go back to the beginning of this menu screen. Let's just expand it slightly, see if that helps. See what's going on. Okay. Just want to make sure I've got this use current map extent picked, which I haven't. So that's just going to do it on this area rather than everywhere. I check how much it's going to cost me. I remember before that it's a credits usage for these kind of functionalities. So you need a subscription, one of these subscription to be able to do this. I'm not sure if a free account, a free trial account will let you do it. It might do, but certainly your school organisation subscription. It says it's got 4,000 crimes that it's going to have to map across here, and it requires 4.7 credits. So it's not going to use up too many of my credits. I'm going to run the analysis now and keep my fingers crossed this is going to work. So what I'm hoping it's going to do, as its working way in thinking, is create a brand new layer. In that new layer it's going to draw another version of these shapes, these polygon shapes that I've already got. It's going to include all the data from the original polygon, but it's also going to do a count of all the dots, which are the crimes within it. So this one has got 2 dots sitting over this one, so it's going to count them all. It's not going to miss any, and therefore I'm hopefully going to be able to visualize this a little bit more effectively than just these dots, which I can't really see very clearly, in order to overlay the 2 layers. Hopefully that will become clear in a moment, how that visualization will improve. And it means that all the data is going to be in one layer. At the moment it's in 2 layers. They're sitting on top of each other. I'm going to have all the data included in one layer, which has the benefit of me being able to take it into a spreadsheet package and actually kind of compare and analyse those relationships. So here we go. The work has been done. I'm going to get rid of all the dots here, and now you can essentially see I've got my enriched layer here, and I've got a new layer here which has got the proportional symbols on. Let's see what it's decided to symbolise. Counterpoint, so it worked it out straight away. That's what I wanted. So I can see there's more crimes in one area than other. Let's show you again the principles. So it's got all the data from the layers in here, but I'm just going to show counterpoint. I'm going to do it as proportional circles. It's picked that already for me. I can play around a little bit with the symbols, perhaps to exaggerate and bring out some of that data. Make some of the smaller ones smaller and the bigger ones bigger. See if that helps. And I can play around with the colours and so on as well. So I'm beginning now to visualise much more effectively than with all the dots, because basically what's happened is in every area here I've got the income data, but I've also got the number of crimes that totalled in that particular shape or polygonal region. So let's get rid of let's just get rid of some of the layers so it's less confusing. Let's get rid of that one for the moment. Okay, so I can see here that this polygon has actually got all the data in it. Counterpoints, 878 points. In other words, crimes occurred in that particular area, which is in Central Bath. I've got all the income data. That was from the other layer here. And the enriched data I created as well. So I've done a few processes to create this layer. And I can, as I showed you before, overlay it with other layers. So what I want to do now is, I've got a very effective layer here, but actually take it out into a spreadsheet. So I'm going to go down to the little three dots here and, excuse me, let's get rid of that. A little bit slow. Hopefully this will come back in a minute. Let's try recovering the web page. Slight computer overheating problem here, but hopefully this will come back to life in a moment. I think it, as I didn't save the map, it will have lost that last edition, but it shouldn't be difficult to get it back. Okay, just bear with me while it all loads. Okay, so search for layers. Hopefully this layer that I've just created, summarise test, if I can remember what I call it. Nope. Right, just a second. Do shout out if you see it. Summarise. See if there's that one. Yes, I think that looks right. Sorry about that. Let's turn the other layers off, just check that makes sense. Yeah, okay, so we're back to where I was, sorry about that. Let's just go under this, that's what I was trying to do. So if I go to show item details now, this is the layer with the combined test, the combined deprivation and total count of crimes in Bath data. So I go under show item details, and what that's going to show me is the sort of background information that relates to that particular layer. So this allows me to do various things like share the layer and so on. And under here, under the layer details, little secret arrow, you can export the data. So I'm going to export it to a CSV file, and I'm going to call it CSV crime test merged data. I'll leave it at that. Give it some tags. Test crime merged, and merged crime totals and social data. Okay, so what this is doing, and again you need an organisation account to have done this and to get to this point, is it's now creating a spreadsheet file, a CSV file that can be opened in a spreadsheet. It's saving it in my ArcGIS Online account, so here it is. Not sure if it's ready yet, I was just working on it. Seemed very quick. Okay, let's try this, download. And hopefully I should be able to open it and get a spreadsheet. There we go. So, rather slight computer crashing problem. You saw the basic principle of that. What we've got here is a opened Excel spreadsheet. It's got lots and lots of layers in. Each one of these is my different bit of data. So the counterpoints was the total crimes. It's got every single ward that I conducted this on across path. It's got the index of deprivation data for that particular shape or polygon, as it were, and size of the area. I want to know how big it was, and purchasing power per capita. It's some of these things you have to try and work out what they mean, but hopefully if you go back to your file you'll work out what they related to. So PPC underscore CY is purchasing power per capita, income basically data. So I would obviously want to save this. Just save this new fancy data. So this is really kind of clever merged data I've created using a spatial mapping program to look at spatial relationships, actually look at areas that are at the same in the same location and combine them together. So I'm going to call this merged crime and social data. Save. Okay, so here's my spreadsheet, and then I'm into my attempts to look at any relationships in the data. So let's say I want to look at purchasing power and the number of crimes to see if there's any relationship. I saw visually in the map there seemed to be a relationship, but I can't really tell if the relationship's true or not. And so I can create a scatter graph to look at those two columns relationships. So basically what I've got here is on this axis, so which way around it goes, this axis is the number of crimes from 0 to 1,000, and this axis has got the wealth of an area, purchasing power from my enriched data. And it's a little bit skewed because of these outlying points. So I can control various things about the way the graph looks. I'm not going to go to that one, let's try this one. So I could put a trend line in and see a relationship of sorts. I could put a different type of trend line in to see if it works more effectively. Anyway, in this data there's a because the data's clustered, it's quite hard to see it fully, so obviously by stretching out the graph just visually I can get a better sense of it, but I've clearly got some outlying data, so so I can work on the way the scales work. I could change this into a logarithmic scale perhaps. It might help to spread the data out and look at the relationship, and I could do some stats on this data quite easily now that it's in a spreadsheet, but what you can see here is that there's quite a scattered relationship between income and the total number of crimes that are happening there, but again this can all be find down. You could look at a particular type of crime. I think the data I was looking at was all crime. It might be you look at a particular type of crime and see if that has a strong relationship. You can look at other specific variables. So let's change the data. Let's do it another way. So let's look at the counterpoints and index of multiple deprivation, let's say, and create another graph on that, scatter graph, and this one's showing you that put a trend line in. Okay, this one's coming out with a little bit of a clearer relationship anyway, but it appears. But we can see that as multiple deprivation goes down, in other words, it gets worse. So these 0 numbers here, these ones have higher multiple deprivation, are scoring less well, and these ones up here are less deprived, are scoring 35,000 multiple deprivation index, but 35,000 is good, whereas 1 is bad, and then showing the number of crimes recorded in those different areas. Each one of these dots represents a ward. Go back to the map, just perhaps remind you how the data is laid out here. Each one of those dots, in other words, each row here represents a shape in our map, one of the polygon shapes for an area of, in this case, Bath, that we then did the calculations on. I'll just wait for that to load. And you could do some stats on this. You could do Spearman's rank. You could do other types of correlation analysis to see the strength of correlation and see whether one factor like education or housing or employment or income or whatever correlates more closely with instance of crime or a particular type of crime than another. So that's the way. And each one of these shapes is all got all the data in. That represents a space, a place, a location, which is one row of your spreadsheet here. Okay, so there's lots of data here. Makes an interesting and challenging project to look at, but you've created a lot of data and you've taken it this time, rather than bring it from the spreadsheet into the GIS package, and you're taking it from the GIS package out to your spreadsheet, and therefore being able to do some quite high-level sophisticated analysis of the relationship of that spatial data, which, you know, visually you might be able to see some patterns. If I bring back the density map or something, yeah, we can see, you know, some patterns here visually, but, you know, that's just catching spatial patterns by eye, whereas this is looking at the mathematical relationship between that spatial data. So it's allowing you to do quite a sophisticated study. So that's part 9 about merging data, extracting it, taking it out of the GIS package into spreadsheet, and therefore takes you kind of full circle from taking data into a spreadsheet, manipulating it, and then taking it back out to produce quite a sophisticated analysis of crime. I'm Raphael Heath, Head of Geography at the Royal High School, Bath, and this project, trying to explain to students and teachers how to conduct personal investigations into crime using GIS data capabilities analysis, is a project supported by the Royal Geographical Society as part of the Innovative Teaching Grant.